Hello Pokemon fans, Professor K here for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and we're back again with another deck profile video. This time we're going to take a look at a deck that's done very well in Florida City Championships in particular. This is something that's not really gotten very popular nationwide, but it seems to have really taken off in my area here in Florida. And it's a deck that has won multiple City Championships and placed highly in several others. And that deck is Turbo Flareon. Now, the deck is a little bit of a fragile deck in some instances, but there's a couple of cards that this recent set, Phantom Forces, gave to Flareon that really helped it along. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here as we do the deck profile list as it goes on. So first of all, the main thing we're going to take a look at here is going to be for Eevee. Now this particular Eevee is the Energy Evolution Eevee, and even though it has 10 HP less, you'll see exactly why this Eevee is used over the 60 HP one. But 4 of these are necessary, considering that Flareon is our main attacker in the deck. Speaking of which, that is our next Pokemon that we're going to take a look at here, and to get the maximum consistency, we run 4 of these Flareon. This is a Team Plasma Flareon for Plasma Freeze, and we focus this entire deck around that attack right there. Vengeance, for a double colorless energy, does 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So the main goal of this deck is to attack with Flareon and get as many Pokemon in the discard pile as you possibly can to start hitting for tons and tons of damage. Flareon is a very powerful Pokemon and can really come from behind in situations where normally most decks would fall behind and not be able to catch back up. Flareon is a come from behind deck. Next copy Pokemon we're going to run is to Leafeon. This is the Energy Crush Leafeon, also from Plasma Freeze. The main reason for this Pokemon is to use the attack Energy Crush. 20 damage times the number of amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. This is one of your Seismitoad counters. Considering the Seismitoad EX has a grass weakness, this Pokemon can come in, hit for weakness, and with a Silver Bangle can deal a lot of damage to a Seismitoad depending on how much energy is attached to their side of the board. I mean, the double colorless alone makes up for 40, you're automatically hitting for 80, but if you have a Silver Bangle attached, you're hitting for 70, 140, which is almost enough to knock it out. So as long as you have one more energy out there, you can knock it out. So Leafeon Energy Crush is really good in this deck. But there's another form of Leafeon here that's also very good against Seismitoad, and that's going to be this Leafeon from Furious Fist with the first attack, Soothing Scent. 30 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep automatically. So with a Silver Bangle, you're hitting for 60 times 2 is 120, and they're asleep. So if you can get them to miss the sleep flip, then chances are you can knock it out on the next turn. So Seismitoad is not a huge threat to this deck as long as you have either one of these Leafeons in play. So that's it for the Eevee lineup. I'm going to take a look at next what we use to help power up the Energy Crush Leafeon and the Flareon's attacks. And that's going to be 3 Deoxys EX. Now Deoxys EX is a really interesting Pokemon for its ability, which is Power Connect. Your Team Plasma Pokemon attacks, including or excluding Deoxys EX, do 10 more damage to the active Pokemon. So Flareon hits for 20, plus 10 for each in the damage, each Pokemon in the discard pile, and then Deoxys adds an additional 10 for each one you have on the bench. Most instances you don't want to have more than one or two of these guys on the bench because you need the bench space to build up excess Flareons or Leafeons. But 3 copies of this makes it a little bit more consistent, and whatever you don't need, you can just throw in the discard pile so that way you can use for Vengeance anyways for 10 more. Alright, the next Pokemon we have in this deck is 3 copies of this Audino from Boundaries Crossed. The ability Busybody. Once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon is in your hand, you may reveal it. If you do, heal 10 damage and remove a special condition from your active Pokemon, then discard this Pokemon. This is an obvious synergistic card with Flareon because you can throw it in the discard pile. And if you're poisoned or asleep or anything else, paralyzed, burned, confused, any of that stuff, you can heal that special condition and then heal 10 damage as well. So Audino is a very good addition in any Flareon deck just because it gets in the discard pile so quickly. Okay, so the next Pokemon we're going to take a look at here is also one that we saw in our Seismitoad Slurpuff deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Swirlix. This is going to be your helping to get an additional draw power. Swirlix, not in and of itself, obviously, is the basic Pokemon that's needed for the next one, which you guys know if you watched the last deck profile video. 2 copies of Slurpuff. with the ability Tasting. Once during your turn before you attack, you may draw a card. If this Pokemon is in your active position, you can draw one more card. So it adds a level of consistency to the deck that may not necessarily be there due to its lack of support. If you get one or two of these on the bench, you can start drawing cards and really just help get into what you need. This deck also runs 2 copies of Ditto. Ditto's ability Transform allows you to put a basic Pokemon from your hand on top of this Pokemon, and it doesn't count as evolving. So if you have this Ditto on your bench or in your active position, and you transform it into Ditto, say on your next turn, you can also evolve straight into Flareon because this is the Pokemon that counts in play. So if you start with a Ditto and you whiff on the Eevee, but you get an Eevee on the next turn and you got a Flareon, you can just go Eevee, Flareon, one right after the other. It's a good Pokemon to have just in case you don't necessarily get that Eevee because it has 70 HP and can survive a hit a little bit better than an Eevee normally would. So that's also a Pokemon you can throw away with an Ultra Ball or Battle Compressor or anything else. As we progress with this deck, you'll see. Alright, so we got 2 more Pokemon to take a look at here. We've got 1 copy of Execute. That ability, Propagation, once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon's in your discard pile, you may put it back into your hand. This is good if you want to Ultra Ball, but you don't necessarily want to throw away any of your resources, or you're 1 card short of being able to use an Ultra Ball, or Computer Search, or whatever. You can get this out of the discard pile and discard it again, and then get it right back for whatever reason if you want to. But having it in the discard pile is the biggest advantage to this deck. We also run 1 copy of Jirachi EX, only for that ability, Stellar Guidance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, put it into your hand. So an Ultra Ball can turn into a Jirachi, can turn into a supporter. That's essentially what this is for. I kind of avoid using this card as much as possible if I can help it, just because it is 2 prizes, and I don't like giving up 2 prizes for that little 90 HP. But in some instances, it really does come in handy. At the very least, it adds 10 extra damage for Flareon's attacks. So you can discard it if you want to, or you can just use it for its ability, Stellar Guidance. Speaking of supporters, it's time to take a look at the support lineup because we're done with the Pokemon lineup. There's a ton of Pokemon in this deck, and it really just depends on that to make it work. We're talking 4, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. There's 25 Pokemon in this deck. So if you have a good number of them in the discard pile, you're hitting for a ton of damage. So the support lineup looks like this. 4 copies of Professor Juniper, because obviously we want to get as many of these guys in the discard pile as possible to get things going. Professor Juniper, discard your hand, draw a fresh 7 cards. It adds consistency to your deck and also helps accelerate the goal of the deck, which is to discard Pokemon. Next, we've got 2 copies of N. You don't really want to put stuff back into your deck if you don't need to, so 2 copies of N is all this deck really needs to get things going. And it's also a fast deck, so you don't really want to end yourself down to 1 or 2 cards because you've taken prizes. The goal of this deck is to be fast, but it can also come from behind as well. So 2 copies of N is really all you're going to need to make this thing work. And this is just a personal addition, adding a copy of Shauna. Shuffling in and drawing a guaranteed 5 I think is better than playing an end and possibly ending yourself down to a smaller hand size. So I feel like Shauna is a good fit in this deck. Even if it's just 1 copy, you can also get it back with Verse Seekers and all that good stuff. Alright, so 2 more. We've got a Lysander here. Being able to pull something up off the bench into the active position that you want to hit is really, really strong, and with Verse Seeker, this card is just absolutely amazing, especially if you don't need anything. You got tasting ability over there. There's also item-based draw in this deck as well, so 2 copies of Lysander is pretty much the standard nowadays. Just in case you happen to run out of resources, or Enhanced Hammer comes in and gets rid of your DCEs, you got 1 copy of Lysander's Trump card. Now granted, this card isn't something the deck wants to use all the time because the goal is to get as much in the discard pile as possible, but Lysander's Trump card is necessary if you happen to see a lot of early Enhanced Hammers, you got to get back the DCEs, or if you just lose some resources that you don't necessarily want to and you want to get back, like Flareons, Eevees, Leafeons, so on and so forth. So 1 copy of Trump card, just in case. Alright, so that's it for our support lineup. Now we're going to take a look at our items here. First thing, 4 copies of Verse Seeker. This is really important. Considering that you have such a low copy of support, this is where you're going to get it all back from. You Juniper away a couple of Junipers or a Shauna or a Lysander, you can get it right back with VS. 4 copies is pretty strong in this deck, and I feel like that's the best number to have. Just being able to get stuff back over and over again is really powerful. So there's that. Also, a 4 of in this deck is going to be Battle Compressor. Battle Compressor, search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. This is the card that gained this deck so much power. Just Turbo Flareon. You start with a couple of Battle Compressor, a Flareon, a DCE, and an Eevee. Eevee, DCE, Flareon next turn, and being able to Compressor away all kinds of Pokemon, it can really deal a lot of damage really fast and hurt your opponent into a point where they may not be able to return to come back to win the game. So there's that. Next we've got 4 copies, again, of Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand and get a Pokemon. So you can discard 2 Pokemon and get a Pokemon. You can do that, or whatever else you gotta throw away. Personally, throwing away Pokemon in this deck is obviously the best way to go, and say you need another Flareon or another Eevee, or you want to set up a Slurpuff or something like that, you can always go and get them. So 4 copies of Ultra Ball, just another way to get those Pokemon in the discard pile as fast as possible. Our item-based draw support here I was talking about earlier comes in the form of 2 copies of Bicycle. You can draw cards until you have 4 in your hand. A lot of times you'll find yourself with a low hand size with this deck. Being able to draw and maybe draw into a supporter or a VS to get a supporter is pretty strong, so Bicycle's a good fit in this deck. We also have 2 copies of Silver Bangle to add damage to our attacking Flareons or Leafeons, depending on who you're trying to hit with. Those are the only Pokemon you're going to want to attack with. If you're trying to attack with anything else, then there's a problem. There was one instance, competitively, about 2 years ago, where somebody had to hip bump for the win with an Autonote. It was pretty crazy. But normally, if you're having to use hip bump, you're probably in a pretty bad position, so yeah. You got Silver Bangle here to add damage just in case, dealing 30 more damage to Pokemon EX. There's no Muscle Band in this deck because dealing 20 is not quite as important as dealing 30 to EX. Most times you can knock out a non-EX Pokemon with this deck pretty easily without any issues. So Silver Bangle is the way to go with this particular build. Next we got 1 copy of Float Stone. If they happen to Lysander up a Deoxys EX and you need to get out of the active position, you can put this Float Stone on it, or you can put it on a Slurpuff and just kind of keep going back and forth so you can tasting over and over again in between turns if you have to. If you get knocked out, put him in the active, tasting for 2, retreat him into something you want to use. So 1 copy of Float Stone. You can obviously get it back with Lysander's trump card if you absolutely have to. Next we got 1 copy here of Computer Search. That is our Ace Spec in the deck. You can only run 1 Ace Spec, so Computer Search is the one you're going to want to use the most to get any kind of resource you need, whether it be discarding 2 Pokemon for another Pokemon, getting a supporter, getting an energy, getting an item card. Computer Search is just an amazing card, and it's a perfect fit for this deck, more so than Dowsing Machine. Dowsing Machine I feel has fallen really by the wayside with the addition of VS. So pretty much now everybody's Ace Spec is going to be either Computer Search or Scoop Up Cyclone or something like that. Maybe a Scramble Switch too. Alright, our energy count is low. We've got 3 copies of Grass Energy. This is strictly to attach to Eevee to become one of these Leafeons. That's all they're there for. If you have to use it for something else, then that's not good. Attaching them to a Flareon in a last-ditch hope to get another one isn't good at all either, so there's that. And finally, we're looking at the last energy here, which is 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. A lot like the Seismitoad Slurpuff deck, 4 copies of DCE is really going to be all you're going to use for the most part, with the exception of maybe the occasional grass attached to Leafeon. So this is what you use to attach to Flareon to hit for as much damage as possible with Vengeance, and it just works. Like I said, if they end up getting discarded, you can Lysander's trump card and just start drawing back into them again, usually without an issue. It's a pretty consistent deck. Like I said, it's won many cities in the Florida area. Particularly one of my newer friends, Stephen Bates, piloted this. Harrison Levins piloted this deck to pretty good success. So, I mean, it works. It's a good deck. Sorry for the glare there. Didn't realize my light was glaring off of the Computer Search and the Float Stone so bad. So anyways, guys, that's the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Maybe we'll post a matchup with it so you guys can kind of see how it works in the next few days or so. With Primal Clash coming out, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this week, next week, or maybe even the week after, but we'll see. Matter of fact, that'll be the question of the day. In the comment section down below, let us know if you want to see this deck in action, if you're interested in seeing how it works and how well it does against, well, N, which I know I point that direction, but he's not here. So anyways, like I said, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and be sure to let us know in the comment section down below if you want to see this deck in action. I'll be looking for that and answering all your comments and questions down below. And that's going to be it for today, guys. So join us next time for more Pokemon TCG action over here at the Pokemon Evolutionaries. I'm Professor K, and you all take care.